Hi guys, Gilly Hunt here today with the last of the 3 in my step card series. This one is looking at a triple or 3-step card. So let's get started very quickly. I'm going to just whiz these bits and pieces out of the way. We're going to start to build on what was our single. We made this in video 21. This is our single step, which means it's just got one fold to make that one step. This was our double, and we made this in video 22. And that's a double step card, which means you have the two, let's just show it on the side, you have the 2 step together and they link in together. And now we're going to have a go to triple, and I want to just show you a card that I made, not the one that we're going to make today in the video, but a card that I made because I got inspired by someone. I've made triple cards for a very long time, as I'm sure many long experienced crafters will have done, and every now and then I flip through Pinterest or I look for ideas, and I'm sure like you're doing with my video, and I came across a lovely card made by Bronwyn Eastley from Addictive Designs. She's an Australian lady. I don't know her, I just have emailed her to say could I show you her card. This is my take on her card. It's not her card exactly. I've used different papers, I've used slightly different sizing, but isn't it beautiful? And it was inspired by her, so pop along to her, Addictive Designs, Bronwyn Eastley, and have a look at the original, because I'm sure you'll love to. I'm sure you'll love some of her other work too. So this is the one that was inspired me. But whilst I was being all inspired this week, I also was inspired by a plate I've just made, which is here. Which is a ceramic plate onto which I've put a lovely design from our Ballard stamp set. It's actually called Free as a Bird. There we go, there's the stamp set, and I used this stamp to add to the plate. And I was stamping with my good friend Baz. So between Bronwyn and Baz I got really inspired, and I'm making us this time one using the same Free as a Bird stamp set. And I bet some of you are thinking, oh, I wonder if she does a video on that plate. Well, actually, I'm going to give you at the end the recipe for how to make that plate. So if you hang on right to the end of the video, I'll give you those instructions then. Okay, so here we go. You will need 3 pieces of paper because we're making a 3-step stamp. So here's the first one, which is 12 by 4, and it's scored at the 3-inch and the 6-inch point. These are all inches. And then on this side, at this end, on the small piece, I've added a piece of designer paper, and there's your sizing, 2 7/8 by 3 7/8. That's the first one. Second one is in Pool Party. Oh, sorry, that was Blushing Bride, that pink. So here's the second one. We've got an 8 by 3 1/4. We've scored it at the 2 and the 4-inch points, and likewise I've stuck a piece of paper on at 1 7/8 and 3 1/8 size. Okay. And the third piece is 5 inches by 2 1/4, and it is scored at the 1 1/4, 2 1/2 point, and on the little tiny piece here is 1 1/8 and 2 1/8. And if all these 1/8, 7/8 and what have you get you all in a muddle, then go to my video Gilly Hunt 22, where I'll show you just a little bit of a way of cheating those measurements there, because it's much easier to do it the way I did on the other video. Okay, so there's your start. Now you're saying, where did I get these lovely papers from? And I'm going to have to run across my studio. Just one moment. I'm going to bring it back. Ooh. Sing amongst yourselves. Are you doing that? I'm coming back. I promise I'm coming back. Here we go. Because I'm wanting to get this pack, and I forgot to get it out to show you because I made it just earlier today. So these are the lovely papers. Absolutely fabulous papers, double-sided as normal, which our 12 by 12s are, so they've all got lovely patterns on the back and the front, And this is our bird ballad DSP. Isn't it pretty? Isn't it pretty? And this is what I've used. We've got seagulls and birds and feathers and footprints. Absolutely beautiful. In some lovely pastel-y shades. So that's where I got my lovely pretty papers from. Now I've also then done some stamping using my Free as a Bird, and because this is would be quite a long video if I showed you all the stamping. Oh, excuse me. If I was to show you all the stamping, it would take quite a while. So here we go. I'm just going to show you these. I've stamped these in StazOn, and I'm going to show you how I coloured them. So these little birds, I want them to have, I'll show you the one we're aiming for. I want them to look like this. I'm not aiming for a specific bird. If you want to, you could of course colour them to make them into specific birds, but I'm just aiming for quite a nice pretty little bird. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to give them a yellow tummy. Okay, and I'm doing this quite scribbly and quite fast, and I'm going to just scribble a little yellow flower. And I'm going to give them a little pink underbelly. And again, I'm scribbling relatively quickly. I'm going to give them a little orange beak. And I'm going to just put a little orange centre in the flowers. Again, I'm just quite scribbly. I'm then going to give them a little blue throat. Okay. And then I'm going to give them a little brown tops and tails, so literally top and tail them. So the heads, any wings that are showing, like here, and any, then we're going to hurtle along the branch. And then I'm going to colour the leaves, and I'm going to colour bizarrely half a leaf, and I'm going to do that reasonably heavily. Normally with watercolours I'm pressing quite gently. This time I want these to be a little bit darker, because what we're going to do in a moment is we're going to use the brush to pull the dark side to the light side, which will give us a two-tone leaf. Okay, now I'm going to come in with my water brush. You've seen me use a water brush before. They're absolutely unbelievably fabulous. And I'm going to work from the tummy, which is pale, upwards and into the blue, and then I'm going to finish off with his little head. And I'm going to just go back. We're doing his tummy first, because what we don't want is him to end up sort of green. So we're just being a bit careful not to pull the blue too far into the yellow. Okay, we can do it a little bit, but we don't want him to suddenly look sickly green, as if he's not too well. Okay, now, you know we said, oh, let's whiz along the trunk. Here we go. We're going to just clean my brush, so I'm going to get a little scrap, because it's got a little bit of the darker blue on. It's always worth with a water brush just giving it a little wipe before you want to go on to something like the yellows, which is why we started on the yellows there. So I'm just going to do the yellows and oranges of those little, and remember this is watercolour, so if it goes over the edge a little bit, it's not the end of the world. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the green from the dark side, and I'm just going to merge it onto the lighter side, so that the whole leaf is coloured, but what we get is a very, very light pale side, one side of the leaf, and a darker side to the other side of the leaf. And that way we get that feeling of a leaf having a bit of shape and form. Okay. And that's how we've done it. Now that didn't take very long. I might spend a little bit more time, but not a lot more time if I was doing it myself. So we're going to colour in. We're going to stamp out and colour in one of these. We're going to stamp this little chap and colour him in. We're also going to take one of the big flowers and colour that in. One of the little flowers and colour that in. one of the leaves, colour that in, and we're also going to print ourselves off a "Your friendship means the world to me," and then we're going to punch it out, the shape out, using this, which is the Everyday Label Punch, and that's your code and that's how much it costs. So remember, everything that you're seeing here can be bought in my shop at gillyhunt.com. Look for the red shopping basket and go and buy your things. Okay, so we've got all the bits and components we need now. Let's take these away and let's get putting this together. So we've got all the things we need, and remember from the last two-step videos, we're going to just stick onto this piece, the piece that we've got the coloured papers on, because when this folds up to make the card, we absolutely don't want anything sticking onto the back. Okay, so here's where we're going to go with this. Let's put, oh, and I've already put some little dimensionals on the back. So let's whiz those off. And remember, because we're only wanting to stick on this section, I've put them on one half of this bird. So this half is going to be stuck down. This half is still open. Under here is still open, so that when this folds, he's going to pop up above the bend. Okay, so there's the first one, and he's finished. The second one, I'm going to add some glue to the back, and I'm going to put on just a few dots. We don't need a great deal of glue. I'm going to add on a leaf here. I'm going to just make it stick out a little tiny bit, and a very small flower here. Let me see where it's going to go. Yeah, I can move it a little bit because I'm using wet glue. I've got a bit of movement. And now I'm going up onto a dimensional because I want this to stick out a little bit. So 3 little dimensionals hidden on there. And these are the mini size. We do big ones and small ones in the catalogue. So there you go. And all we've done really is we've added to this pattern and made it pop forwards. Okay, so there we go. Isn't that pretty? And the last one, we're going to add our, again, I've put dimensionals on the back, remembering that we're only going to do half because I want this to stick up above the piece when it bends. So we're only going to stick this bottom half here, and that's going to go onto there. Okay, so that as it bends, those little chaps are going to nicely stick up above, and yet we don't see the dimensionals there, so it's just stuck by those dimensionals at the bottom. And then I'm going to add, using a little bit of tear tape on the back, I'm going to add "Your friendship means the world to me." But of course you could add your own sentiment there with pleasure. Now we're going to stick the whole lot together. And this is where we have to be just a touch careful because we're now dealing with 3 layers. So we're every single one I'm going to lay out with the pictures upside down facing away from me. And I'm now going to flip them over. So that's 1, 2, 3. So I'm being really careful that, and here's my check, when that pops over, it will be the right way round. When that pops over, yes, it will be the right way round, and so on. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to flip up this one and add some glue. Okay, and we're now going to stick this down to here, and we're going to stick it in line with the bottom, so that the 2 bottoms of the cards are lined up. Just to double check, there we go, that when it folds over will come in place there, and this, when it folds over, will come in place behind it there. So here we go again, flip it upwards away from me. Oh, that was a bit of a large splotch. Let's just fingers were always made before tools. And then that goes in just here in the centre, all lined up again. Okay, let me just get that glue off my fingers. There we go. Now we've got the first step, the second step, and the third step. And if you remember, the one thing we absolutely need to do is we need to squash these down to make sure that they really are going to fold down. So what I'm going to bring in is a bone folder, and we're going to just give each of these creases a really good smooth over. Okay, this is always a little bit tricky. I could perhaps have done this before I folded them all together. That would have been more sensible, but I don't always do the sensible thing because I'm me and I get carried away with showing you what we're doing. Okay, and we're just going to make sure each of those is nicely folded down. And here's the great thing about these cards. Did you realise that every single one of them folds flat, totally flat, to go in an envelope? So these can go in the post. Let me just bring back, here's my two-step one. Folds beautifully. I did have to be quite careful when I'm placing the second little chap that his hat comes just underneath that fold line. But as long as I do that, that one fits flat and that one fits flat. These two are designed to go in a larger envelope and that's designed to go in the notelet envelope, but all of them fold flat. So the last thing we need to do is we need to put a little stopper in to make this work. And that means putting something here so that this one will not fall flat. Okay, and I have used the most beautiful little trinkets. These are the Ballard trinkets. Again, they're available from me at gillyhunt.com. And you get 24 of these in these designs. So there's 4 lovely designs, 6 of each. And it's only £6.50. I think they're beautiful. I don't know how well you can see these really up close. Ooh, here we go. They are absolutely beautiful. And we're going to use these, the leaf and the flower. So let's use these as our stopper. So on the back of these, I'm going to add a tiny bit of glue, and we're going to put one in the middle, and we're going to put the 2 leaves, just a couple of little tip tops of glue. If you're not comfortable with adding glue, just dip it like that. Then the other thing to do is just to put a little piece of, maybe I should have done this, to have put a little piece of either a glass mat or a glass block or something down that you can do this on, and just use a sponge and just sponge a little bit onto the back. But those are starting to set and will have set nicely. Now a top tip for you, if I can find a piece. I'll keep running off on you today, don't I? Sorry about this. If you've got a kebab stick or a cocktail stick, if you have a little bit of excess glue like I have just there, you can be very fussy and just take it off with a wooden stick. There's something about the wood, I don't know quite what, but the wood sort of absorbs the glue. So as you go over it, it just takes the little bits off, and that will just make it really neat and smart, and you won't have any little bits of glue showing. So there's our first one, and that will hold this first one in place. The second one fits in behind the first one, and the third one fits in place behind that. And now I'm finding this is quite springy, and if you remember the design I showed you wasn't so springy, so sometimes it's just worth going back over them until they're just a little bit less springy. I think we need to go across here. Let's get that bone folder back in. And what you will find is once you've done these, that's it, a few moments just fiddling with the bone folder, there we go. And these will start to fit in nicely, there we are. And now we have, let me hold him up for you, my take on a 3-step stamp. I'm having to hold it back because you can't see it otherwise. There you go. And we now have those 3 triangles at the side. I hope you like that and you want to have a go at it, but don't run away, because if you remember, I did promise you that I would give you the instructions on how to do this lovely plate. Now, first and foremost, I have to say, I have no idea whether it's food safe, but I'm assuming it isn't. And it is only decorative. Whilst this is beautifully sealed, and you can run your finger over it quite happily, you can hear me slightly scratching it and it's not coming off. It certainly wouldn't wash. All you can do is give it a wipe with some mild soapy water and then quickly dry it off. So it's a decorative piece really, but isn't it beautiful? And there, as promised, are the instructions. I'll leave those so that you can freeze your videos, pause it and copy down the details. That's really simple to do and lovely. And it makes lovely little ceramics in all sorts of things. You can do it by rolling along a mug along those ceramics. But what I will say is the instruction says baby wipes to rub off, because actually it's quite hard to get that image stable. It's quite slippy as a plate. So don't give in. It may take you 5 or 6 goes and you have to wipe it off and start again, wipe it off and start again, but I promise you it's well worth the effort. And the colouring is done with our Stampin' Blend markers. Thanks very much for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed the 3 videos in the step stamping series. Thank you, bye bye.